Welcome to Riding the Storm Out, Navigating the New Normal. I am Margaret Moore, UMDF Support Education Associate, and I implement UMDF's support programs. So I think most of you know that we're in the middle of a pandemic. So now what? One of the most important goals of the UMDF support program is to make sure that our patient families are connected and do not feel alone. Social isolation is not good for anyone. So unfortunately, our in-person support meetings that we host monthly have been canceled. Mitochondrial Medicine 2020, otherwise known as the UMDF Symposium, had to be canceled, which is really a shame. This is a unique opportunity for families from all over the world to get together and feel connected, and that was canceled. So as a patient advocacy group, the UMDF said, how do we respond to this? What can we do to help? So we decided to keep calm and go virtual. We did our best to keep calm and to continue to provide the support and connectedness that our families need. In all honesty, a lot of it was very organic because we needed to be together, and we decided to make some changes, and I'll tell you a little bit about those next. One of the most obvious virtual changes that I think most families would be aware of is that we have begun hosting Ask the Mito Doc webcast series. And our first installment was a 3-part coronavirus series. This series was so helpful to our families. We had mitochondrial disease specialists talk and give our families kind of a feeling about what's next, what we should be considering, what things they need to be knowing, they need to know so that they can keep themselves safe. We've also had a session that talked a little bit more about the feelings that people are having and the fears that come along with being in the midst of a pandemic. This series was so successful. We have had over 670 registrants, and post-event, we had nearly 2,200 views on our YouTube channel. I do want to stop right now and make sure that everyone knows how to find our YouTube channel. If you go to www.umdf.org and look in the upper left-hand corner, there is a little YouTube symbol. And if you click on it, you will see all sorts of amazing content. So please visit our YouTube channel. Because this series was so successful, the coronavirus series, we have made the decision to continue over the next year hosting monthly Ask the Mito Doc webcasts. So look forward for that. The other thing that we've implemented for our scientists, researchers, and clinicians are every other week Mito Friday seminar series. And this series is for scientists, researchers, and clinicians. They're all stuck at home just like the rest of us. And this has provided them with an opportunity to get together, talk about important things that are happening in the mitochondrial medicine space, and to get together and share ideas. We've had over 300 registrants per session. So lots of researchers, scientists, and clinicians are getting together during this time. And then quite obviously, since you're joining us, we have UMDF Power Surge 2020. Our annual symposium is a really special event, and we knew we just couldn't wait to bring important information to you. So this 2-day event will be available for people who aren't able to join us, will be recorded, and we hope you will all refer back if you have any things that you're trying to remember or just want to watch again. Virtual support meetings. Typically, in a month, the UMDF will host 4 to 5 in-person support meetings. That's every month, pretty much, but they had to be canceled. And we needed to figure out a way for our families to be together. So since the end of March, we have hosted 46 virtual support meetings in 16 states, covering 18 cities. We have had 200 plus registrants for these virtual events. I want to set the stage a little bit and kind of talk about the feel of these meetings. These meetings are almost like being together. We have our pictures up. We talk about really important topics. Families want to know, what do? I have to go to the hospital. there's coronavirus there. We talk about all of those kinds of things in these meetings. How do we have fun this summer? How do we socially distance summer fun? And we're moving into our back to school topics. So these meetings have just been a really nice way for us all to get together. From my perspective as the host of these meetings, I've had the absolute pleasure and delight of meeting so many new families, and we will be continuing these virtual meetings in the future. So I do want to let our community know that if you've ever wondered about support in your community, how you make it happen, what do you do, how could you have a support meeting, please reach out to us at 1-888-900-MITO. And I know that we can make something happen for you. We really want our families to be together across the country and across the world. Teen and young adult programming. For any of you that have attended the UMDF symposium, I think you all recognize that our teen and young adult programming is something that is very, very, very special. Our young people get to attend specialized sessions. They get to do some really fun activities. And we even have a virtual prom complete with the DJ and the photo booth and all of the fun things that you would have at a prom. It's a really special time. And it was really hard to even think about our teens not having that opportunity to get together because they create lifelong friendships during the time that they spend together at symposium. So thankfully, we have been able to schedule weekly virtual happy hours for our teen and young adult population, age 16 through 35. These are fun events every Friday at 8 p.m. and anyone's welcome. And I think the young people have had a really good chance to connect during these scary times, and they need each other more than ever. We've also hosted a virtual art class, which was so much fun. And moving forward, we will be hosting 2 virtual STEM courses, one for our younger teens and then one for our adults, our young adults kind of focusing on career. And we will be hosting a virtual prom. So thankfully, our young people won't have to miss out on too much of what our UMDF symposium offers. Next, I want to talk about the UMDF Support Ambassador Program. Our UMDF support ambassadors are trained, dedicated volunteers ready to help. They connect one-on-one, they host our support groups, and they help with special projects to move the UMDF mission forward. We have 86 support ambassadors across the world. We have support ambassadors in 28 of the US states. Almost all of them offer peer-to-peer support. And what that means is if someone calls and said, I need to talk to somebody, this is happening, I have this new diagnosis, I don't know what to do, I am able to then connect that person to someone who's been there and can offer that true understanding and support. So if anyone needs that help, and we all need someone to talk to during this crazy time, please reach out again at 1-888-900-MITO so you can be connected today. Virtual Energy for Life walkathons. So for those of you that don't know about our Energy for Life walkathons, we've been hosting them for over 11 years in a variety of cities. Most of our events happen in the spring or fall. And because of the pandemic, most of our spring Energy for Life walkathons had to go virtual. These events are just such a great opportunity for our Mito families to get together and to celebrate the loved ones that are impacted by mitochondrial disease. And if you haven't ever attended one, once we get back to our new normal, please join us at one of these events. They are heartwarming, they are fun, they are special, and we'd love to have you. So anyway, because of having to go virtual with our spring walks, we hosted a virtual EFL on June 13th, 2020. Really fun event, which included our Pittsburgh Energy for Life Walk, our St. Louis Energy for Life Walk, and our San Francisco Energy for Life Walk. We had nearly 500 registrants for this fun event, and we realized that we can still be together without being together. Great time was had by all. And lastly, I just want to remind all of you that we are always here for you. We're a phone call away, we're an email away. We know this time is hard and we want to be there to support you. And I'm just going to talk through this little picture you see. No one fights alone. We stand together apart. Energize the fight. We're in this together. Please know that we're here and we're here to help. And if anyone needs to reach me, here's my contact information. I can be reached also via email at margaret.moore@umdf.org. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jaclyn Leit. Welcome to Navigating the New Norm. So I'm an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. I practice in New Jersey. I'm also a board certified telemental health practitioner. So I've been in private practice for about 20 years. I have a diverse background, but one of my specialties is working with people who are medically compromised. So those who are dealing with an acute or a chronic medical disease, as well as their caretakers. Also been a part of the MITO community for about 6 years now. My son was diagnosed with KSS. Reason I bring this up is just to point out to you guys that not only am I presenting today as a clinician, but I'm also presenting with the experience and the idea of I know what it's like. So I can't separate the MITO mom from me from the therapist in me. So we're going to get both of me today. With that being said, so I'm going to challenge us all to think that living with MITO has actually helped us to navigate the new norm. And no, this is not a trick question. Take a moment to think about it. Because all of us have actually had to experience something extremely life-changing. All of us had our worlds kind of shifted on its axis. That's kind of similar to what's been happening now. Kind of everything we knew, the norms that we've lived with, they've all changed. But I think for most of us, again, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I think for most of us, when we received that diagnosis or a loved one received that diagnosis, it was hard to handle. I'm guessing a lot of us went through denial, we went through depression, we went through anger. All of these emotions are probably sounding similar because I think it's what we've been dealing with as we've been dealing with the COVID virus. But as each one of us got our diagnosis, think about it. We're still here. We're all in this room right now. We're all listening because we all learned to accept and adapt. And that's the key to going with the new normal. Being able to live with our diagnoses, being able to recognize, okay, I don't like this. I don't want this disease, but it's living with me. So I'm going to live. That skill alone is what's going to help us be able to adapt and live to this new norm. So as we start to navigate the new norm, it's being complicated and it's more challenging by a few things. The situation is ever changing. We keep getting new information, we get conflicting information. And again, for many of us, it is probably similar to our experience with MITO. A lot of us went through wrong diagnoses. A lot of us we've adapted to one change and then something else has changed. So again, this is a skill that we actually already have in our skill base. I know sometimes the information we're getting is confusing. And honestly, for a lot of us, we're not even experiencing it the same way. And again, kind of like MITO, no two cases of MITO are alike. So if you're living in Texas, or if you're living in New Jersey, or if you're living in Wyoming, all of our experiences with the virus are probably very different. And I bring that up just so that we can remember. We all have our own different experience of this, and we want to be understanding. We don't want to judge each other. We want to allow for the fact that we're each going to go through this process a little bit differently. We're all dealing with the same reality, but it just may be presenting a little bit differently for us. Again, humans want control and predictability. That's why I posted the Serenity Prayer. Accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Because honestly, in life, we cannot control most things. The trick is then figuring out, okay, what can I control? Well, I can control my reactions. I can control my thoughts. That is the key also to how do we survive through this new change? How do we navigate the new norm? We accept and we adapt. We control our thoughts, we control our reactions. And again, this is not going to look the same for everybody. Some of us right now, we may be in a more negative place. I don't want to accept this. I don't want to deal with this. Some of us may be further along. Okay, these are my choices. What's going to be my best choice? And I'm going to choose to social distance because I want to see my friends. But it's going to be a process for all of us. Again, no judgment, just allowing everyone to kind of go through what they need to. But I'll remind you, the more positive we are, the easier the process will be. So I kind of liken it if you're swimming in a riptide. Our instinct is to fight the riptide. But if we fight the riptide, we're going to go under. If we go with the riptide, we swim parallel to shore, we will end up on the beach. That's the idea behind acceptance and adaptation. But there are a lot of misconceptions about acceptance. And I want to start, though, with these two quotes. And if you take a second, particularly the one by Darwin. So it was very interesting because we always think of survival of the fittest as literally the fittest, the person who's strongest, the person who's biggest. But that's not actually what it is. It's those that can adapt, those that can respond to change. That is survival of the fittest. And again, that's a skill we've already developed as we've learned to live with our mitodiagnosis. But when it comes to acceptance, there are a lot of misconceptions. People think, well, if I accept it, that means I'm giving in. That means I've given up. That means I am helpless. And that's not what acceptance is at all. Acceptance doesn't mean you're fine with it. So let's review what acceptance is not. It is not approval. It is not compassion. It is not liking it. It is not passivity. Accepting something does not mean you're okay with it. What acceptance is an openness to the circumstances. It's not fighting or resisting reality, but acknowledging it and then understanding. So again, you don't have to like something, but if the fact is this is what's real, what are our choices? None of us like this virus. None of us like what this virus has been doing. But the fact is it's here. We've had to change. So allowing ourselves to accept that puts us back in control, giving us the ability then to adapt and really be able to kind of address and accommodate the new norm. So what are the things that we actually do have to accept in terms of how we're navigating this new norm, and things that I'd like you guys to keep in mind as we talk about this? So everyone experiences things differently. I've said this a couple times now, but I want everyone to try to be open-minded and not judgmental. We're all going to feel differently about this. We're all going to experience it differently. Part of acceptance is acknowledging the new norm, but what that means is recognizing the loss of what we are seeing, the loss of family gatherings, the loss of school that is not online but in present, the loss of going to work. I know for some of us that may have not been so bad in the beginning, but yes, now it's a loss. But we want to recognize those losses, mourn them, and then begin to reinvest our emotional energy into the present and the future. With acceptance, there are a lot of feelings and emotions that we're going to go through. Some of them are going to be denial, anger, anxiety, confusion, depression. Key to acceptance is don't deny them, don't repress them. Acknowledge them, work with them. So we've got to learn to cope with the changes and the feelings. But I do want to take a second because a lot of us I know are parents. We have children who are diagnosed, or we may have adult children who may be developmentally disabled, or there may be other conditions that just makes it a little bit harder for them to cope with and understand and adjust to the new norm. So I'm going to use children as the example, but it really can be generalized to how do I help my loved ones. So it's really important that we answer any questions that they ask us with age-appropriate answers, but to not avoid answering the questions. If we don't answer, they're going to think there is a problem. And it's okay to be honest and say, I'm not sure of the answer, or the answer is, still changing. But we need to be there to answer it for them. We want to encourage them to share their thoughts and their ideas and their feelings. We want them to know that it's safe to. It's important to maintain a routine as best as you can. And this goes for us also, but even more importantly for our children. And I know that's been very hard. We're not getting up and going to work. We are not getting up and going to school. We can't really even go to the grocery store for some of us. So how do we keep these routines? Like I said, as best as we can. So if your child or you has PT or OT or speech, you want to work with your therapist to make it so that it's virtual. You want to wake up at the same time every day. If you exercise, you want to keep exercising. If Tuesday night was Taco Tuesday, it's still going to be Taco Tuesday. You want to keep as much routine as you can. Socializing with friends, and yes, I say socializing, because that is one of the new norms. It's changed, but being open-minded to experimenting with these new norms. We can do Zoom calls. We can social distance and sit with our friends on our driveways, but keep distance between us. There are many ways that we can stay connected with our family and friends. And for our children, it is really important, again, for that sense of reassurance and normalcy. That's my next thing, providing reassurance. I know we are scared. I know we are confused. Again, we don't have to like the new norm, but helping our children to understand that it's going to be okay. And again, I'll remind you, okay does not mean we like it, and same permission to our children, but reassuring that we're going to get through this. It's important too to contact your medical or mental health professionals if you have any questions or concerns. We are noticing a lot with children, particularly elementary age. They are presenting a little bit more with a little bit more anxiety. A lot of parents are saying that their kids are a little bit more attached to them. They don't really want to leave their sides. This is normal and to be expected under the circumstances. But if it is a concern and you're not sure how to address it, reach out for help, talk to somebody. Most importantly, the concept of normalizing the new. Again, this is not something most of us like, but it's our reality. Let's make the best of it. Let's figure out how to work this new norm. Because again, we can look around. There are some pretty cool things that have happened from it. Many people are more relaxed because we're not running around. There is less pollution. There are some good things along with the bad. Normalizing the new is being able to recognize both. I do want to remind all of us, please remember, our children look to us as role models. They look to us for our emotional cues. So how you react will really impact how they react. So if you look like you're panicking, they're going to panic. If you look like you are out of control, they're going to be. If you look like, okay, I can handle this, that's how they're going to react with you. Coping and adapting. I know I've used those words a couple of times. What is it that we need to cope and adapt to? That's really what the new norm is. But so being able to express our feelings about the new norm, being able to express our feelings of what we're experiencing. It's important to do this with our friends, with our family. If you have a therapist, or if you'd like to contact a therapist, there are support groups. Journaling just for yourself is helpful. You can blog. There are so many ways, but the most important thing is to get those feelings out, to not keep them in. So I think it's also important that we remember that we take breaks from the news. Just because it is available 24/7 does not mean we should access it 24/7. Again, we have so many messages coming at us. We have social media, we have our phones, we have texts, we have email, we have the news. We have everything at us. We don't need to be inundated. That's not going to help us cope or adapt. It's going to actually panic us and overwhelm us. Get what you need. Look at the news, get the points that you need, maybe once a day. That's it. That's beginning to cope with the new norm. With our children, we also want to protect them a little bit. They do not need to be exposed. So you may want to check which social media apps they have, what messages are they getting, and just make sure to limit as well for them. It is really important as we adjust to the norm that we continue to engage in activities that we enjoy. And again, I know part of that is the new norm. If you like playing sports, okay, well, right now we haven't really been able to play most of them. But again, we know that that's changing. We know things are starting to be different. But there are other activities that we do enjoy, we can still do. Reading, cooking, exercise, gaming, gardening, our pets. There are so many different things that we can do while we wait for other things to resume. It is so important to connect with others. We have telephone, email, text, video chat, social media. I can keep going. The one I want to remind people about really is snail mail. Most of us do not usually mail things. However, it has been really fun and I think kind of important that people have been using mail to send cards and gifts. Again, just little ways to make people feel connected. I think my favorite has been that you can TP a person. So when the TP crisis, the toilet paper crisis was going on, you could actually TP your friends by sending them a roll of toilet paper with a note. Again, just things that make it fun. We don't have to like the norm, but we have to learn to live with it. Really important for us in the Mito community, check in or reach out. Please check in on your family and friends who live alone or who have health issues. For us, please reach out if we are feeling isolated. Ask for what you need. Do you need groceries? Do you need a ride to the doctor? Do you need your prescriptions picked up? Do you need a friend? It is important that we do use all of our resources as we're adjusting to this. In terms of coping, I know sometimes people don't know exactly, okay, well, I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling depressed. How do I manage that feeling at that time? So I do want to give you guys a couple of exercises that you can use in order to help through the adjustment. So mindfulness is probably a concept a lot of you have heard about. Thing I like about mindfulness is that it allows you to have your thoughts. You don't have to be relaxed. You just have to be present. You can think, but you're not putting too much emphasis on it. So a couple of exercises in mindfulness that I think are really helpful right now. One is literally your 5 senses. Take a moment to think. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you taste? What do you touch? That's going to bring you back into the moment. That's going to kind of ground you. So any anxiety, any tension is going to quiet. Focus on your breathing. Notice I said focus on your breathing, not take deep breaths. Just focus. As you breathe in, I want you to count to 4. And as you breathe out, I want you to count to 4. The counting is going to help kind of quiet your mind because your thoughts can't really present if you're counting. Your breathing is going to help slow down your body. So literally you're using the mind-body connection. Another really helpful mindfulness tool that is really helping people as I work with them to adjust with the new norm. Think of your thoughts as leaves falling in a brook. So imagine you're sitting under a tree by a really pretty brook and their leaves are falling. On each one of those leaves is one of your thoughts. You know, when leaves fall, one leaf falls and another, then another. And if it falls into the brook, it goes downstream. You don't think about it anymore. That leaf is replaced by another leaf. And sometimes leaves may get stuck on a rock and they circle, but they will pass. And that's the idea behind mindfulness, what we do with our thoughts. You can think something, but don't focus on it. Just let it go. Another way to cope, distraction. Some examples would be music, books, cooking, talking to someone on the phone, again, gaming, TV, movies, and even right now movies or Netflix at least can be interactive. So really exploring what's out there. Exercise, yoga, those are also great coping skills. And I want to encourage people to do the creative arts as well. Coloring, knitting, painting, drawing, dancing, singing. Again, these things are involving the mind and the body, and they're a really great way to help decrease anxiety, decrease stress. Thought blocking. Bring this one up because I think it's important for people to know kind of ways to shut off your mind if your thoughts are just kind of there or you feel like your head is just, you're kind of stuck. So activities that actually engage your mind, things that make you think, those are the things that are going to be able to help turn off those kind of thoughts. This also really works well if you're having any insomnia. And I am aware, again, as we're adjusting to the new norm, a lot of people are experiencing insomnia. Our sleep patterns are off. The time we need to get up is off. So these are things that you can also do to help you fall asleep. So Some examples of thought blocking activities would be math problems. Yes, I'm saying math problems. You can do the timetables in your head. You can do 100 minus 7 equals 93, 93 minus 7 equals 86, etc. Word games are another really good one. Think of a word that begins with AA. Think of a word then that begins with AB, then a word with AC, and you just keep going until, again, your mind kind of quiets. Recite the lines from your favorite movie, favorite song. You know, a lot of us had to memorize poems and sonnets when we were in high school. If you still remember those, recite that. Your favorite recipe, anything that's going to engage your mind will help to quiet it and help you cope and relax. Let's talk a little bit about what we are seeing with the new norm. No, a lot of people may not even like that phrase. I've heard new norm, new equilibrium. But again, the idea is the reality in front of us are these changes. So social distancing is a huge one. It's had a huge impact on how we get together with our families, how we celebrate things, how we do school, how we do work, sports. All of these things, though, are progressing. They're changing. I encourage everyone to explore and see how comfortable you are. Try to see family social distancing. Try to open up as our world is beginning to reemerge. Again, I know for some of us it's different. We live in different places that have opened much quicker, but allow yourselves those chances again. Routines, those have changed a lot. Travel, shopping, commuting, personal care, how we dine, entertainment. All of these things, again, a different norm. Yes, restaurants will open, but we know in the beginning when they open, it's going to be less capacity. Okay, that's probably a new norm that we can accept. Not the ideal, but okay, it's a change. So again, accepting and adapting to it. I think one of the harder parts will be reestablishing the sense of trust and safety as we do re-engage. Again, I'm going to encourage us, be patient with ourselves, be patient with each other. We are all different. Even our medical conditions are different and how that impacts our choices. So allow everybody that chance, but again, open your mind. Try to remind ourselves, no, we're in this together. That person standing next to me, they're not trying to get me sick. We're not trying to get anyone sick. We're okay. And letting ourselves go back into the public. So wearing masks and other PPE, that is another huge one that I know people are not really liking about the new norm. Again, I am going to encourage all of us to follow the CDC and individual state guidelines. I'm going to ask us all again, respect and not judge. Different people are going to have different comfort levels when it comes to masks, as well as different needs. Medically compromised, for a lot of us, the mask it makes sense. I know it's not something most people want to talk about. It's a very weird thing, and I never thought we would be talking about it. I almost feel like, what's the next fashion accessory? I'm going to wear my gray mask today with my brown shoes, which won't match. But we need to talk about masks. Perspective that may help us all to kind of accept and adapt to wearing a mask. Take one moment to think about other safety measures that have happened, things that were met with resistance and doubt. So most of you are probably old enough to remember driving around in the back of the station wagon and just kind of flying all over the place. It's because there weren't seatbelts. There weren't car seats. Now there are. I remember when I was first told to wear a seatbelt, I was like, I'm not wearing a seatbelt. I don't even think about it anymore. It is just habit. I buckle that seatbelt. Bike helmets, child-proof caps. All of these things, when they first came out, the questions were, well, why do we need to do this? I don't need to do this. I don't want to do this. But it's actually become second nature for most of us. Again, I'm going to ask you to go to your Mito experience. On this, I'm thinking of my son. When he was first told he had to wear his hearing aids, there's no way he was doing it. He was angry. He was upset. There was no way. It is literally now second nature. He is so responsible with those, he wouldn't think of not putting them on. So allowing ourselves that time to accept and process, and to remind ourselves that sometimes things that are a little bit more difficult do make sense and can help us. The other reason we need to talk about the masks, I'm aware a lot of people are feeling difficulty breathing in them. People are feeling anxious. A lot of people are just uncomfortable. But the reality is right now, many places are requiring you to wear them, especially if you're inside, if you're in a public place, doctor's office. Again, unfortunately, we all tend to go to a lot of doctors. So being comfortable with wearing a mask. So a couple of tips and ideas for how to wear masks. There are so many different styles and types of masks, and I encourage you to look into and try them on if you can. Again, think of it this way. Do you buy the first pair of jeans you try on? Probably not. You're going to try on a few, make sure it's the best fit. So kind of the same with the masks. Cloth masks are much easier to breathe through, even if you have a filter with it. That can help decrease those feelings of not being able to breathe or feeling like you're about to hyperventilate. And again, I know we've heard a lot of talk, the N95 masks, those kind of PPE really are more important for the doctors who are actually dealing with the virus. For our purposes, if we're out in public, if we're social distancing, if we're seeing our doctor, a cloth mask or disposable masks, those could all work. Do want to reflect back to those coping skills I talked about, because if you are one of those people that when you put your mask on, you are feeling like you're having trouble breathing, want you to think, the mind and the body is honestly getting kind of tricked into fight or flight. That's causing anxiety. That's going to cause that hyperventilation, that difficulty breathing, or that claustrophobic feeling. So take a moment either before you place your mask on or while you're wearing it to use some of those coping skills to just kind of help center you, make it a better experience, and not have that focus on, okay, I have to wear this mask and it's uncomfortable and I don't want to. Other thing I do want to point out, and I learned this lesson the hard way, different fits of masks work better with different things. So glasses, hearing aids, if you have ataxia, if you have a child who is nonverbal or someone with sensory issues, which mask you use can be a difference. So I learned that the hard way when my son went to put his on, and he had a little hard time getting it over his glasses and his hearing aids. So we actually had to play around with different masks. But there really are masks out there. There are ones that tie, there are ones that go over the head with elastic bands, ones that go over the ears that can be sized. There are ways to attach them to your glasses. There are clear masks that are actually very helpful with people with hearing difficulty as well as nonverbal, so they can see our facial expressions. So again, explore those. Not a topic we thought we'd be talking about, what masks are we wearing, but again, accepting our reality right now. So adaptation and acceptance, panic versus preparedness. We saw a lot of panic in the beginning of this epidemic. I'm going to encourage us to not panic, but to be prepared. Being prepared is going to help us navigate the new norm. But what does being prepared mean? For us, some of it is really practical. Know what medications you or your loved ones are taking. You want to try to have a 4-week supply of prescription and over-the-counter meds. Please work with your doctor in doing this. You don't want to kind of not take some of your meds so you're saving them up. Work with your doctors to get a little bit extra medication just in case. You want to monitor medical supplies, and again, try to have a 4-week supply. Keep in touch with your pharmacy regarding ways to ensure that you have what you need. Again, unfortunately, I think many of us did experience we couldn't get hand sanitizer, alcohol wipes, or gloves, things that we might actually need every day, where now other people were buying them, but we couldn't get them for our needs, our daily needs. So again, just being aware and having a little bit extra. Want to stock up on some non-perishable foods. This also includes for your pets. But again, I know particularly a lot of people with mito, gastroparesis is an issue, other dysautonomic problems. Sometimes the food that we eat is really important. So we want to make sure we have that on hand just in case. But I'm going to remind you, stocking up does not mean stockpile. Stockpile is panic. We don't have to stockpile. We just want to make sure that we have enough. And as we've seen with this pandemic again and the norm, we can get groceries, we can get into stores. It's just not the way we're used to doing it. We had to change it up a little bit. We want to remind you to have a reserve of household necessities, toilet paper, cleaning products, batteries, water. Discuss with your doctors what the protocol will be if there is a resurgence. Have a list of social supports and resources accessible. So I know I have a lot of you from all over, different places, different countries, so I wanted to provide some concrete resources for you. However, again, I needed to keep it a little bit general. I'm going to encourage you to all look into your local resources. I'm not going to go through all of these in detail, but a couple that I do want to highlight: the local 211 number. That is for everyone anywhere. If you call that number, it will give you resources in your area. So if you do need food, or you need help paying your bills, or there's a problem with your house and you need someone to come and fix it during the pandemic, they will help you find somebody. I want to point out the sites of Feeding America and food pantries. You can just go online onto their websites and you'll be able to find local resources. When it comes to energy resources, most of those are government, and again, they're locally based. So if you look up for your local area, it's called Low Income Energy Assistance Program, LIHEAP. That goes together with the Universal Service Fund. Those are programs that can help cover the cost of heating as well as cooling if necessary. You can also contact your provider if you're having trouble with your bills. They will work out a payment plan with you. There are also ways to get a telephone if you're having trouble paying your bills. I'm going to point out too, just in case guys you don't know, if you're on Medicaid or you have SSI or SSDI, the Lifeline program is accessible all the time. Resources for prescriptions, if you're having difficulty with them, paying for them, the pharmaceutical companies can offer patient assistance programs. Your local healthcare centers can help. Specialty pharmacies can also be of assistance. There's a resource for rental assistance, mental health. Again, there's a lot of resources listed there, and I think it's important for all of us to know it is okay to reach out and talk. I'm also going to encourage you, if you have a social worker or caseworker who is working with you through your medical care, talk with them. If you need help accessing resources, if you're isolated, if you're lonely, if you have questions, they are an incredible resource. They can help you through all of that. So please take a chance to kind of look over these resources, and hopefully they will be of help for you. And I just want to end with one final thought to remind us we're all in this together. We're experiencing it differently, but we're sharing this reality as one. We are navigating this together. Be patient with each other, be supportive with each other, and be there for each other. If you have any questions, if you would like to follow up with me, this is my contact information. And I thank you all so much for sitting and listening today. And have a good one.